This is Bronny James, and if it's not clear, he's the son of LeBron James, and he's in the NBA. But not everyone followed in their father's footsteps. One NBA legend's son turned into a crackhead. Another switched genders. So how good is every NBA legend's son actually? Karl Malone finished his career as the NBA's second all-time leading scorer and one of the most dominant power forwards basketball has ever seen, and a no-doubt Hall of Famer. But his son KJ Malone didn't try to carry that legacy, but he also didn't waste it. Standing 6'4" and weighing over 300 pounds, he turned his size and toughness into a career on the football field. At LSU, he held down the left tackle spot, using that massive frame to protect quarterbacks instead of grabbing rebounds, trying to create a career on his own. In 2018, KJ signed with the Houston Texans after going undrafted. At the Combine, he clocked a 5.34 in the 40-yard dash, posted a 29.5-inch vertical, and showed off surprising athleticism for his size. For a moment, it looked like he could follow in his dad's footsteps as a pro athlete, just in a different league. But lingering knee issues cut that dream short. After rookie minicamp, he decided to retire and pursue a life outside of football. For all of Malone's greatness, the biggest prize slipped through his hands twice on the biggest stage, to none other than Mychal freaking Jordan. 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs, and the untouchable 6-0 finals record. The man worshipped as the greatest to ever touch a basketball. Now imagine stepping onto a court with that as your last name. During his Hall of Fame induction in 2009, Jordan looked at his kids and said, "You guys have a heavy burden. I wouldn't want to be you guys." Jeffrey Jordan was the first to take on that spotlight. At Loyola Academy in Illinois, ESPN even televised a few of his high school games just because he was MJ's son. He was a solid guard, earned all Catholic League honors, and even had scholarship offers. But he wasn't Mychal. He eventually landed at Illinois, later transferred to UCF, and carved out minutes here and there. But scouts quickly realized he wasn't NBA material. Marcus Jordan, the younger brother, showed a little more pop. At Whitney Young High School in Chicago, he led the team to a state championship in 2009, dropping 19 points in the title game and winning tournament MVP. ESPNU ranks him among the top 60 shooting guards in his class. At UCF, Marcus flashed scoring ability, putting up 28 points in one game, then dropped 18 to help upset 16th-ranked Florida. By the time he was done, he had scored over 1,100 career points. But despite Mychal saying, "I see more of me in the younger boy Marcus," Marcus never got close to sparking an NBA career, and his off-the-court choices made the gap between him and his dad even wider. In February of 2025, Marcus was arrested in Florida after police found his Lamborghini SUV stuck on railroad tracks, hit with multiple charges. It wasn't the first time his name made headlines for the wrong reasons, and it reinforced the idea that while he inherited his dad's fame, he didn't inherit his discipline. Because here's the truth, talent wasn't the only gap. What really separated them from their father was the mindset. Mychal was obsessed with winning, fueled by a ruthless drive and competitive fire that bordered on unhealthy. Basketball was his only chance. Jeffrey and Marcus didn't have the same edge because simply they were already set for life with their dad. But if there's anyone with a drive like MJ's, it's Jimmy Butler or Anthony Edwards, 2 men who may very well be Jordan's sons. The theory has floated around for years, partly because both Butler and Edwards never knew their real father, and partly because their relentless will to win feels ripped straight out of Jordan's DNA. It's never been confirmed, but when you watch Butler or Edwards in the playoffs, you can see why people wonder. So when it comes to basketball, Marcus and Jeffrey serve as a reminder. Skill can be taught, opportunity can be given, but Mychal Jordan's mindset, that killer instinct, can't be passed down. But what about the man who stood by Mychal's side for all 6 championships? Scottie Pippen was the ultimate co-star, a Hall of Famer in his own right. Scottie Pippen is remembered as one of the greatest defenders and most versatile players the game has ever seen. That's the kind of legacy his son, Scottie Pippen Jr., was born into. However, Scottie Jr. didn't come up as the freak athlete or do-it-all forward his dad was. Instead, he carved out his own style at Vanderbilt, a crafty scorer, a steady point guard, and the kind of player who could control the pace of the game. By his sophomore and junior seasons, he was putting up over 20 points a night in the SEC. When he went undrafted in 2022, it could have been the end of the story, but instead, it was just the beginning. The Lakers picked him up on a 2-way deal, and from there, he grinded his way through the G League, flashing the scoring and playmaking that made him stand out in college. But off the court, things weren't exactly simple. His OnlyFans model mom's highly publicized relationship with his Lakers teammate Michael Beasley made for an awkward situation, and before long, Pippen Jr. was ready for a fresh start somewhere new. That new beginning came in Memphis, and in 2024, he started to show he belonged. He dropped his first career triple-double, making him and his dad the first father-son duo in NBA history to ever record one. He had 30-point games, and he cracked playoff rotations. Will he ever reach Hall of Fame heights? Probably not, but the fact that he's already turned undrafted doubt into NBA-level production shows he's building something of his own. But if there's a such thing as the perfect set of basketball genes, it starts with Shaq. Shaq. Size, dominance, and a legacy so big, it practically comes with its own spotlight. 4 championships, 3 finals MVPs, 15 All-Star appearances, and a personality as big as his 7'1" frame. At first, Shareef didn't even want that spotlight. As a kid, he loved skateboarding more than basketball. By his teens, the athleticism, the height, and the bloodline made basketball almost impossible to ignore. Soon, he became one of the top recruits in the country, a 6'10" forward with guard-like skills who could run the floor, block shots, and even stretch out his jumper. But in 2018, everything changed. Doctors discovered a serious heart condition that required open-heart surgery before he could even play a college game. Shareef eventually returned, first at UCLA, then transferring to LSU to follow his father's footsteps. But between injuries, limited minutes, and lost development time, he never became the college star many hoped for. By the time he declared for the 2022 NBA draft, the talent was still there, but the consistency wasn't. He went undrafted, played in Summer League with the Lakers, and joined the G League Ignite. Today, 25-year-old Shareef O'Neal is still chasing that breakthrough moment, the only one where he proves he's more than just Shaq's son. Shaq redefined dominance in the paint, but the player who redefined dominance everywhere else, he's still playing, and his sons are chasing that same impossible bar. Because when your dad is LeBron James, the expectations are through the roof. We're talking about the NBA's all-time leading scorer, a 4-time champion, and the name that gets compared to Michael Jordan every single day. For Bronny and Bryce James, that's the shadow they lived in since grade school. Bronny James grew up under the microscope more than anyone. By the time he was 10, colleges were already sending him offers, and by high school, every dunk, every crossover, every warm-up clip went viral like it was the NBA Finals. Scouts praised his defense, passing, and feel for the game, but the question was always the same. Did he have the superstar upside people expected? His path turned out to be far from smooth. At USC, Bronny faced a terrifying health scare when he went into cardiac arrest during a practice. He came back, fought his way onto the floor, and showed flashes of the IQ and toughness people always praised. LeBron even tweeted saying, "Man, Bronny definitely better than some of these cats I've been watching on League Pass today." But when the Lakers drafted him 55th overall in 2024, the backlash was immediate. Fans and analysts accused the Lakers of drafting him only because he was LeBron's son, pointing to his average college stats and lack of elite size. But here's the part that gets lost. Bronny is actually improving. He flashed defensive toughness, playmaking, and even had breakout scoring nights in the G League, including a 39-point game. He's not going to be the next LeBron, but that doesn't mean he can't carve out a solid NBA career. Meanwhile, Bryce James is the wild card, taller, longer, and still raw. Bryce has the kind of size and shooting touch that makes scouts wonder if he might end up being the better long-term prospect. In 2025, he committed to the University of Arizona, where he'll have time to grow and prove himself. The truth is, carrying the James name is both a blessing and a curse. It opens doors, but it also guarantees criticism. Will Bronny or Bryce ever live up to their dad's legacy? No. And honestly, who could? The real question is whether they can block out the noise and build their own legacy, even while the world insists on comparing them to the king. But before LeBron ever took his talents to South Beach, Dwyane Wade was Miami. 3 championships, finals MVP, 13 All-Star appearances, the face of the Heat for over a decade. Zaire Wade was the first to chase that path. A smooth lefty guard with real scoring ability, he played at Sierra Canyon alongside Bronny James and got plenty of hype because of his last name. But while the highlights look nice, he struggled to separate himself from the crowd. He eventually skipped college and went straight to the G League, and even played on a Utah Jazz affiliate team. But the NBA dream never materialized. Next up was Zion Wade, or should I say Zaya Wade, because at just 11 years old, Zion publicly came out as transgender. Take that however you want to, but let's keep it moving, because the next story we got is Gary Payton II, and his path looked a whole lot different. His dad, Gary Payton, earned the nickname The Glove because he was one of the greatest defenders in NBA history, a Hall of Famer, 9-time All-Star, Defensive Player of the Year, and the fiery leader of the Seattle Supersonics. But his son, Gary Payton II, nicknamed the Mitten, or sometimes Young Glove, didn't walk into the league with the same kind of spotlight. In fact, his path couldn't have been more different. After going undrafted in 2016, GP2 bounced around the NBA on 10-day contracts and spent years grinding in the G League. But he kept fighting, winning the 2021 G League Defender Player of the Year and proving that, just like his dad, defense was in his DNA. That persistence finally paid off with the Golden State Warriors. His energy, relentless defense, and high-flying dunks made him the perfect role player alongside Steph Curry and company. In the 2022 Finals, he had breakout moments on the biggest stage, helping the Warriors win it all, and in doing so, he and his father became just one of 5 father-son duos to win an NBA championship. Another one of those 5 is Tim Hardaway and Tim Hardaway Jr. Tim Hardaway was one of the flashiest point guards in the 1990s. With his iconic UTEP two-step crossover, 5 All-Star selections, and a Hall of Fame resume, he was the engine of the Golden State Warriors run TMC, and later a star with the Miami Heat. But much like GP2, Tim Hardaway Jr.'s path wasn't simple. He bounced from New York to Atlanta, then back to New York, and eventually found his best stretch in Dallas with the Mavericks. He became a lethal perimeter threat, setting team records for three-pointers and proving he could hold his own in playoff battles. It's rare enough to see a son live up to his dad's legacy, but it's almost unheard of for a son to completely outshine a father who was already a stud in the league. Arvydas Sabonis is one of basketball's ultimate what-if stories. Overseas, he was a 7'3" unicorn, a center with guard-like vision, a silky jumper, and the kind of passing that made him a legend in Europe. The Atlanta Hawks tried to take him in 1985, but the pick was voided because he was under 21. A year later, Portland grabbed him with the 24th pick, but thanks to political restrictions, he didn't actually come over until 1995, when he was already 31. Even past his prime, the 7'3" Lithuanian still impressed fans with his passing and skill, earning his place in the Basketball Hall of Fame. He was such a good playmaker that his passes will often hit unexpected teammates on the face. In fact, his piece of advice for his son Domantas Sabonis was, "You need to pass to their face 2 times. On the 3rd time, they'll catch it." Speaking of Domantas, he didn't face the same overseas obstacles as his dad. After starring at Gonzaga, he entered the NBA in his prime years and quickly became an all-star. And when the Pacers dealt him to Sacramento in the shocking Tyrese Halliburton trade in 2022, Sabonis transformed the Kings. A 3-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA selection, and now a 3-time rebounding champ, he's one of the best passing bigs in the game and the engine that ended Sacramento's 16-year playoff drought, even knocking out Golden State in the play-in in what would be Klay Thompson's final game on the Warriors. Sure, Mychal Thompson isn't always the first name people bring up when they talk about NBA legends, but make no mistake, he left his fingerprints on the game. The #1 overall pick in 1978, Mychal was a skilled big man who could score, rebound, and defend. He played more than a decade in the league, carving out his own place most memorably with the Showtime Lakers. On a roster filled with Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and James Worthy, he wasn't the headliner, but he was the glue guy, the steady presence in the paint who helped LA win back-to-back championships in the late 80s. But if Mychal was the reliable role player every dynasty needs, his son Klay Thompson became one of the dynasty builders. Drafted 11th overall in 2011, Klay redefined the shooting guard position with his picture-perfect jumper and ice-cold confidence. Alongside Steph Curry, he formed the legendary Splash Brothers, a backcourt that revolutionized basketball with their three-point shooting. The 37-point quarter, an NBA record that may never be touched. The 60-point game in just 29 minutes. The 14 threes in a single game. And maybe his most iconic performance, Game 6 of the 2016 Western Conference Finals, when he buried 11 threes to save the Warriors season. Even after devastating injuries, an ACL tear, followed by an Achilles tear, he battled back to help Golden State win another title in 2022, proving his legacy was untouchable. Today, Klay is starting a new chapter with the Dallas Mavericks, leaving behind his fellow Splash Bro, Steph Curry. But before Steph was pulling up from half court and Seth was draining threes as one of the league's most reliable specialists, there was Del Curry, a silky guard with one of the quickest releases of his era. Del spent over 15 years in the NBA, most notably with the Charlotte Hornets. He built his reputation as one of the deadliest bench scorers of the 90s, and at the time, retired as the Hornets' all-time leader in points and threes. But Del's greatest legacy isn't just what he did on the court, it's what he passed on. His older son, Stephen Curry, rewrote basketball history with the long-range game his father pioneered. From Davidson's Cinderella run to Golden State's dynasty, Steph became the face of a revolution. A 2-time MVP, including the league's only unanimous MVP, 4-time NBA champion, Finals MVP, and the NBA's all-time leader in threes, Steph transformed the game itself. But while Steph became a global icon, Seth carved out his own lane through sheer persistence. Undrafted and overlooked, Seth bounced around the league before cementing himself as one of the best pure shooters in the NBA. At one point, ranking top 10 all-time in career three-point percentage, Seth built his reputation on efficiency and reliability. If there's such thing as basketball royalty, it's the Currys, the greatest NBA family the game has ever known. From father to sons, the Curry family has turned talent into a legacy built on hard work. Because in the end, greatness isn't passed down, it's earned.